Welcome back to Hardline. I'm John Bachman, in for Ed Berliner tonight. Welcome into the program now, Newsmax TV political analyst Dick Morris, author of the new book Armageddon: How Trump Can Beat Hillary. Good to have you with us, Dick.
Good to be here with you, John.
All right, Donald Trump facing some headwinds last week before all this happened. Now, if we look at this, look at the San Bernardino shooting and what happened to Donald Trump's candidacy after that, I want to focus in on what Donald Trump said about the shooting and how he tied the conversation back to immigration. Let's take a listen.
I called for a ban after San Bernardino and was met with great scorn and anger. But now, many years, and I have to say, many years, but many are saying that I was right to do so. And although the pause is temporary, we must find out what is going on. We have to do it. It will be lifted, this ban, when and as a nation we're in a position to properly and perfectly screen these people coming into our country. They're pouring in, and we don't know what we're doing.
Now, in the past, Dick, Trump's strongman tone won over the voters in the Republican primary. What does it mean for the general election?
The exact same thing. I think that on any level, when you compare Trump and Hillary on this particular issue, not foreign policy, not even national security, not even terrorism, but who will keep us safe? Clearly, Trump has a huge edge temperamentally, in terms of his character and in terms of his positions. And I think that he's manifesting that edge very well in the aftermath of this horrible disaster. And I think that Hillary is walking right into it. She has a three-part program. She wants a surge in law enforcement, whereas he's getting up there and being a tough, strong, if you like, macho leader. And the times require that, and he's stepping up to it, and she is falling very short.
And just for the comparison, I want to go ahead and play a soundbite from Hillary Clinton as well, where you can see the hawkish side of Hillary, and this is something we've seen from her before, but the hawkish side of Hillary come out, and we'll play this for comparison and get your take on the other side. Let's take a listen.
The Orlando terrorist may be dead, but the virus that poisoned his mind remains very much alive. And we must attack it with clear eyes, steady hands, unwavering determination, and pride in our country and our values.
And once again, Dick, it seems like Hillary Clinton is drawing on a playbook from the past, and she doesn't really understand this electorate. She's thinking about what has happened in the past, and that when something like this happens, people look for strength, they look for experience, they want the more experienced, seasoned politician to guide them through it. But this is not that electorate this year.
No, they don't want the seasoned politician, because the seasoned politicians brought us to a point of this level of vulnerability. And that statement was fine until she said the word values. Mm-hmm. And everyone knows that what that means is you interview a guy 3 times, and because he's Muslim, you let him go. You don't do anything about him because you're more afraid of the repercussions on your own career and your own pension from proceeding vigorously than you are of what mayhem he might commit if you don't catch him.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That fundamental cultural reason that we're not effective in stopping terror.
Yeah, and I saw somebody point out it may be not the smoothest, a little clumsy expression of feelings, but to the voters out there now, what Trump is saying feels more like the truth than what Hillary Clinton is saying, and that's what's resonating. Let's welcome in Stephen from Liberty, South Carolina.
Hey, Stephen.
And Stephen, we were trying to get to this call before we ran out of time in the last segment, but you say we need to enforce the gun laws and immigration laws that are currently on the books before we think about anything else. Why do you feel that way?
Yes, we don't need any more gun laws or, bans or anything like that. We've got plenty of laws already on the book. If we would start enforcing them, we probably wouldn't have half of these problems that we're already having. This killing in Orlando may not have happened. This guy's a known terrorist. If anything, like I said, Obama, he sold guns to Mexico, so he should be impeached and tried for treason, and Hillary, while she's let emails out, she should be tried for treason too, We don't need any more gun control.
Or at least hold them to account with President Obama and Congress with the purse strings. But Dick, go ahead.
Well, I think we have to focus on one important fact. In the 7.5 years of the Bush presidency, after 9/11, there was not a single terrorist attack on American soil. And under Obama, there have been 45 of them, and involving hundreds of deaths. And behind almost every one, you find an opportunity where we had them in our grasp and we let them go, like the Fort Hood shooter, or like this guy who went and killed these people. And the point is that we are finding them, we're detecting them, but our sense of political correctness is stopping us from being aggressive and going after them. So when Hillary gives that whole statement and then puts the word values at the end, it's very clear what she is recommending. And by the way, let me say that the fact that this was an attack on the gay community is particularly important because it's telling groups that are looking to Hillary to be their advocate that there's something more important than just their legal rights. It's called staying alive.
True, and I've seen many social media posts from openly gay people saying that they now have switched their vote to Donald Trump because they feel like he is the person that can make them safe, going back to your original point.
If there's one transparent failure of this administration, it is to curb domestic terrorism. I mean, how much more proof do you need? And if there is one area where we can assume that Trump would be much more effective, it is preventing terror.
But one thing, well, let's welcome in Greg, and I'll make my point after this. Greg is from Dallas, Texas. He thinks man is the problem, not the guns. Greg, go ahead.
Yes, people have been killing people for thousands of years. If they don't have a gun, they'll find some other way to do it. That's the bottom line. The gun doesn't kill people. It's the person pulling the trigger. If they use the sword, it'd be the person holding the handle on the sword. That's the threat. I mean, rocks. David killed Goliath with a rock.
And we see extremists in China doing these.
For thousands of years in the world. You're not going to get rid of it. If you want to do something about it, put serial numbers on bullets, and the person who buys those bullets attach his identification to said bullets. That way, if that bullet is used, they know who bought it.
Well, Dick, that idea has been floated out there in the past. You know the issues very well. Why hasn't something like that made it through the halls of Congress to the president's desk? Not just this president, but any president.
In these terror attacks, we know who did it. And the guy usually was lying dead on the floor in the middle of his victims as a suicide or he kept shooting until the cops got him. It's not an issue of detection, but he is completely right. It is a question of the man who is pulling the trigger. And it is, in all of these situations, we are hampered by political correctness. We cannot surveil people at mosques. We learned that this terrorist was frequenting a mosque with an imam who said all homosexuals ought to be killed as an act of compassion. And we know that, and we know that he was a frequent visitor there and a loyal attendee. We know that he said statements about 9/11, supportive of it. We even had him as a contractor to the U.S. government, helping us with security issues. And yet we did absolutely nothing about it. And the reason is that a security officer is taking his career in his hands when he does it. Because whether it backfires or not, you'll never know if the guy was a terrorist if you lock him up. But the point is that your career and your pension could be at stake. Because you're overreacting. And that's the message that has gone out throughout the Obama administration and throughout Hillary's State Department. And to quote Reverend Wright, the chickens are coming home to roost right now.
Well, a lot of Americans feel that way, Dick, and the political implications of this will show themselves over the next couple days or weeks. We'll stand by for that. Thank you very much for being with us today. As always, great to see you, and remind everybody to pick up Dick's new book, Armageddon. Dick, have a great day.
Thank you, John.
And a pleasant evening. That's going to do it for this edition of The Hardline. Before we go, one thing that concerns me about listening to President Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Donald Trump speak is that neither one of them really seems to understand how nuanced this problem is. We all need to do a better job of educating ourselves on what it is exactly ISIS wants. It's something completely different than anything we've seen in the past. Read up on it. Educate yourself. You'll be safer as a result. I'm John Bachman. It's been a pleasure filling in for Ed Berliner again. Thanks for joining us. The Steve Malzberg Show is coming up next with Weekly Standard editor Bill Kristol. Coming up after that, General Michael Hayden will join Newsmax Prime. Have a good evening.